So now I'm gonna interview Francesca in a little bit. She said she's feeling like sad or something. But whatever. I'm gonna cheer her right up. Alright. Do you feel like Alderworks has like changed your perspective on life at all?
Like you said, these questions are gonna be easy. On life.
I feel like also I don't know. It can be like a conversation.
Okay. I don't know if it necessarily changed my perspective on life, though I feel like it's reminded me that slowing down is really good for my work.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to like look at my phone like I was today, for instance. If I'm trying to do that, then I'm flitting too much. So I feel like it's reminding me like the benefits of slowing down.
Yeah. Do you have trouble um do you have trouble relaxing in general?
Yeah, I would say yes. Like especially during the semester. Like, I feel like during the semester I get really anxious, like with all the teaching and the kids and the behavioral issues that I have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can be a lot. And then I get home and I'm like playing Switch, eating an edible, drinking my wine, going to bed at 10 o'clock. So I feel like I have coping strategies, but
That's good.
yeah.
What like cohort do you teach? Like freshmen or?
Yeah, like in the fall I usually teach freshmen for composition, English composition, and then in the spring I usually teach a senior level technical writing class. So they're like in their last year for me. Well, it's aimed at final year students, but some very younger.
So it's like, is it like creative writing or is it just like the building blocks of like?
It's
just
the building,
blocks,
it's the
yeah.
less fun stuff. I'm very jealous.
The less
It's just
fun.
actually teaching.
Yeah.
So I teach composition, so that just means teaching the freshmen how to like structure an essay, like how to be persuasive in their writing.
That's
How
interesting.
to use sources. Yeah, you say it's interesting. I think they find it very interesting. But we try. And then technical writing, a lot of them come into that class and they're like, oh, I thought it would be really boring, but actually it was fine. So that makes me feel good because I feel like by the time they get to their senior year, they're kind of done with taking required classes. So
Yeah.
like mentally done with taking required classes.
Yeah.
It's nice that they find it useful.
Yeah, that's nice. Is it easier to like relate with the older
The other
students?
ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be honest, they're around, like they're 21, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The ones who in my class is easier. I think the freshmen, some of them, they still think it's high school. Like,
Right.
They think they have to be like sneaky and like text under their desks on their phones and like, yeah, I feel like they haven't understood yet that it can be kind of fun being an adult and not having to be stuck in that authoritarian role when they're like the underlings.
Yeah. When you did you feel the same way when you were a freshman? Like, did you have trouble like transitioning from high school to college?
That's a good question. I think I actually didn't because I went to boarding school for 2 years and I feel like that really like pushed me to get ready for university in a way that some of my friends weren't really ready. Yeah, I mean I wasn't that ready to like enter boarding school, I'd say that as well. I felt very like fish out of water kind of thing, but by the time I left I felt a lot more competent. Also it helped that I went to China. Like I spent a gap year in China, so I feel like I developed like a lot of skills. I don't even know what I was like cooking skills. I was like no, not cooking skills. maybe speaking to adults. I had to act like a teacher and liaise with teachers while I was there. So maybe that was something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I felt pretty prepared coming in, and actually a lot of the stuff in my first year of university felt like a recap of stuff I'd done last year of high school. So for me, I felt very prepared. But that's because I was like going into English, and English had been my passion for many years. So.
That's awesome. What started your English passion?
I always loved books. Like even when I was trying to make friends. Well, I guess I wasn't trying to make friends, but like in my head, I wanted to make friends when I was 11 and like entering my new school, and then I just like wouldn't make any friends. I'd just go to the library and read tons and tons of books. And I was like the librarian's helper, which I took that job really. I thought it was a very important job. I took it very seriously.
Yeah.
I like came into school early to like water the plants when the librarian was away. So I suppose I've always been like really drawn to libraries and books for forever. And then when I was 15, my English teacher, she was also really into creative writing. This was like the first time I kind of had creative writing instruction in any sense. And she gave us this free writing book where we could just write whatever we wanted in the book. And I was like really angsty. I was 15, you know, so I was like really angsty. And all of my poetry was despicable. I'd come back from school and sometimes my parents would still be out and my siblings would be out with my parents, and I'd like open my window and sit on the roof and I'd like do my angsty poetry and my free writing book. But I guess that was maybe where it started for me. I actually didn't realize until then that you could study creative writing at university. Like that was completely foreign. I thought I'd have to do like journalism or something, and then I was like a year later and I was like reporting on news. Could it be me? So I was like, no, thank you. I thought that was the only way I could sort of get into doing anything creative, and then it was like a year later when I was looking at universities, I was like, oh, these universities have creative writing programs.
Yeah. I guess, Jacinda started off as a journalist. I don't know.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, I think so. I know she was like, when she was in New York City, well no, she was doing law, and then, no, but she was like on TV. She was on television. She reported for some news station or something.
Like regularly?
Yeah, she like had a job as like an anchor or something. I don't know. You'll have to ask her about it.
Yeah, I will ask her about that.
I don't know the full story. It was something along the lines of that. I don't know. Do you... What were your favorite kinds of books to read as a child?
Oh, I loved so many books. I think my favorite book was, or at least one that sticks out to me as being like a formative experience when I was like 8, 9, was a book called Molly Moon's Incredible Book of Hypnotism. And it was this book about a girl who's in foster care, and she goes to the library and she finds a book of hypnotism. And she like takes out it's been misfiled because the H has fallen off the cover, and so it's been filed under Y for like hypnotism. And she like takes it home and learns how to do hypnotism basically. I was obsessed with this book when I was little. I thought that if I could just practice hard enough, I could also be a hypnotist. So I would say like that. And then of course that all led into like the Harry Potter, the mystical books. There were a series of books that I read, probably too young to be honest. They were books by Darren Shan. They were these monster heavy books, but they were terrifying. Like one of them was called Lord Loss, and the idea is that like these monsters, I can't even describe it. Anything I try and describe it can't even come close to how I felt as a child reading these books that were too old for me, you know. And then this like monster would come out and he was going to like kill you in like a gory way, like murder you, like if you did not like win against him at a game of chess, for example. And so I don't know, he had like a series of these books where the monsters were like really terrifying for children, right? So I think I read them a bit too young, but that was quite a formative experience. And then of course all the Harry Potter books, and then when I was a bit older, Hunger Games. Did you ever read Hunger Games, that kind of stuff?
I never. I was into Warrior Cats. Yeah, that was my book. Those were my books that I read. I read a lot of Warrior Cats and like a lot of adventure fantasy. That was a good time.
Were you often like reading because of your parents being professors, or did they help push that?
We had a lot of books.
I got a lot of books as like presents. They didn't really push it on me. They didn't. I just like to read, I guess. Yeah. And my mom, she was always like, "Let me read your essays," and I was like, I don't know.
Was it useful, or was it just annoying?
It was a little bit annoying. I was like, I don't think my writing's that good. I don't know, it was like, it felt like I had to live up to something, but I just didn't feel like it was worth the read.
She said though that your essay that she read for you like last semester was really strong. So clearly something's going well.
That's good to hear. Yeah. Do you feel like the books you read as a child influence your writing now?
I wonder. I can't think of like a direct correlation between any of the things I necessarily mentioned, but I didn't even really know about the psychological fiction genre, which is what I'm writing in, until I think I was like maybe I think I was 19 or something when I read Gone Girl, and that was like a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I think that was the first time I ever read something that could be considered like psychological fiction. And I remember being just so amazed that a book was allowed to do this, because up until then I'd been reading like so much stuff for school, and it would all be like classics and like obscure books that my professors really loved, and they were all literary fiction, which obviously has its merits, but like I never really sort of branched out into genre fiction, like, you know, when I got older. So I read Gone Girl, and then I was like, oh, I really want to read more, and then I just had a Kindle, and I was just like downloading books for like £2.
Yeah.
And I guess like those books have clearly inspired the genre that I'm writing in now. I guess like I was thinking about this actually yesterday about why I was so interested in writing about this ship. I mean, I'm interested in writing about it because of the legend that linked. I told you about this, right? Like the polar bear legend of the picture in my picture gallery, or did I not? I might not have told you about
I don't
this.
think you told
Okay,
me.
I'll tell you quickly. So the camera.
Yeah.
So when I was in undergrad, there was this picture of these like black-eyed polar bears eating bloody clothes, or like red sails. It was kind of impossible to tell. Clearly there had been a shipwreck. And this picture was in our picture gallery at the university, and I went to a talk about this picture. I was interested to know about what it was and why it was in a university that had been a women's college for a very long time, up until more recently where it had become mixed. And the person, the curator in charge of the gallery, like, she said that the polar bears were what Edwin Landseer thought had happened to the Franklin expedition that had been lost in the Arctic. So he was like depicting, I guess he didn't think that they'd all be eaten by polar bears, but he definitely thought something really like tragic had happened to them, so he painted this picture. And then the curator was like, years ago when a student was taking her exam in this picture gallery, like she stabbed herself in the eye with a pencil, and she screamed, "The polar bears made me do it." And then she was rushed to hospital, clearly. And then since then, like, everyone was like, "Oh, this painting is haunted. Like, we're gonna fail our exams." And so even now, like hanging Union Jack flag like over the painting.
Wow.
So of course, at age 19, I was like very, very interested in this legend, and I knew back then I wanted to write about it. But then I was also thinking to myself yesterday, like, why did I want to write about that? Why was I interested in that legend anyway? And then I remembered when I was 11, I went on this school trip. It was a crazy school trip. They invited about maybe 12 kids to come from my year group. Or invited, yeah, we applied to go and we went on this trip. But we sailed this tall ship with big sails across the channel from England to France and back again. And I remember I couldn't quite believe that this was happening to me at 11, you know, and I was given so much power because the captain was drunk all the time. And so he was like drinking way too much to be in charge of a ship with a bunch of, you know, 11 and 12-year-olds. I was the youngest on the ship. And one night he was super drunk. I guess it was maybe day, afternoon, I'm not sure. And he went into his cabin and he was like, "Francesca, you steer the ship." And I was so tiny, I couldn't I couldn't like reach up to hold the the wheel, and so he picked me up and he put me on top of the wheel, and then he wanted me to. The wheel was outside, like on the deck of the ship, and he wanted me to steer. And anyway, I was like sailing the ship. I loved it. I was having a great time. You know, 11 years old, sailing this massive ship with rigging and sails and everything. And I was like sailing it, and then I could see up ahead there was a wall in the sea. And I was like, what is this wall? And I was like, oh, it's the sea wall. And then through the mist, I could see like France was there. And I was like, ugh. I was like not very good at speaking to adults when I was 11. And I was like, what do I do? Like, do I just sail like through this wall to France, or do I like wake up this and that? So I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so I sailed the ship through the sea wall, like, but we were approaching France at rapid speeds. You know, like, the port's right there, and I'm heading towards it. And eventually, I was like knocking on this door, like, sir. I think we're at France. And like this, and I'd been sailing for like 3 hours. And he like ran upstairs. He said, "What do you mean we're at France?" I was like, "There's like France, there's buildings." He's like, "What?" And so then we had to rush to get the ship prepped, and all the boys on the side of the ship. It was a big scramble. But I think for me that was like the moment where I was like, I need to write a book about a ship. I'm just so like taken by this. It was such a strange thing being on that ship, especially when I was by myself and up on the deck steering. It was just silent, you know, it was just like creak, 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 slosh, slosh, slosh. And then beyond, it was just like a snowblow. It was just like white fog, like as a dome. And so I think like since then I've always wanted to write a book. So that was a long-winded way to say that maybe books didn't necessarily influence, but definitely when I was older, the psychological fiction did, and the experiences with ships and ship legends.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to end now.
Bye!
All right.